in New York. Tell us a little bit about your experiences. People who you may meet on the street, you see you on the show. What are some of the things that you keep hearing over and over about your character and the feedback you get?
Well, I think the sense of duality to Fusco. I think the fact that you don't know if he's a good guy doing bad things or a bad guy doing good things. And I think those are the things that people talk about. Throughout my career, I've always had a tendency to play these characters who are a little bit on the darker side, Mystic River, and then I had a very successful series on Showtime called Brotherhood, where I played once again another very dark, intimidating type of character. So people are always a little apprehensive to approach me, which is kind of cool. Then they meet me and they go, "Wow, you're really nothing like the guy you played." I'm like, "No, it's called acting."
At least you get to keep some of your privacy.
Yeah, exactly. I get a lot of pointing and whispering. They kind of go. And what's funny is because people will carry on full conversations like you don't hear them. They go, "Is that him? I'm not sure. I think it's him. I don't know. You think it's him? I don't know. Maybe should we ask him? I don't know. Maybe you want him?" It's like. So anyway.
So tell us about some upcoming episodes that you're excited for people to check out. We're a couple episodes into the new season already.
Right.
It's off to a great start. But tell us a little bit about how it's going to build from these few that we've seen so far.
No. But I like the way you positioned that. It was very good.
Yeah, well, is there one, even just an episode number that you're especially excited about?
Actually, where are we now? We're in episode 8. So episode 7, Fusco takes some rather interesting turns. That, of course, we won't reveal.
Is it tough working on a show that's shrouded in secrecy? Does that make it more challenging?
Yeah, it does, because you're always shooting, somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 6 or 7 episodes ahead of what is being viewed at that specific time. So you have to really be careful about what you reveal. So I just kind of go from the policy of I don't reveal anything, because I'm that guy who's most likely to give a secret away.
So let's become best friends then.
All right, cool.
So what does Fusco know about Root, really? I mean, he didn't seem to be quite in the loop when Finch was taken, but he seemed to help out once he realized he was. But what does he know about Root?
I don't really think that Fusco even has any knowledge on Root. I think it was just more of a basic investigation. It was kind of a procedural investigation for him. I think that will unfold as the story continues on, but he doesn't really have much knowledge. He just knows that Mr. Finch is missing and that we're trying to get him back.
So he's not really on guard where in fact there's this crazy woman potentially out there.
No, Fusco is sometimes that little brother that nobody wanted. He sometimes finds himself trying to get in the game, and he's somewhat a little excluded from what is really going on between Reese and Mr. Finch. Because I think a lot of that has to do with his past. He's trusted, but not 100%. So I think a lot of that comes into play.
Do you worry that makes him the weak link in the little group because he's not aware of kind of what's going on and who the enemies may be?
I'm sorry?
Does that make him kind of the weak link because he's not prepared? He doesn't know who to be anticipating?
No, I don't think it makes him the weak link. I think they use him more like a gun. They point it and pull the trigger, and they know that he can get results, but he's not always given the broader scope of what's going on.
A lot of the cast interactions on the show are usually 2 people at a time. It's always small groupings, and then you get to an event like this where everyone's together.
Right.
Is it hard to sort of develop a cast camaraderie when you're kind of fragmented?
Yeah, you really don't. I mean, I don't really know Amy. Like I saw her upstairs and we talked briefly, and you see her in the makeup trailer, but I don't have any type of and if I walked down the street, I don't know that I would automatically pick up and go, "Oh, there's Amy,"
Right.
because I don't have that relationship with her, because the storylines, and that's what makes the show is rather unique. There's so many different storylines that are running, and they're reoccurring, and they're getting called back 3 episodes down the line, and so it's my approach to the material and approach to the work. I worked with a director on a film years ago named Todd Field, and he worked in Stanley Kubrick's last film. And Stanley Kubrick was the director that only gave you your sides. You didn't get the whole script. You only got the character that you were playing.
Right.
And that is a way that I kind of approach the work. on person of interest, because I know the subtext and the through lines and all that. The writers are going to insert all that. So I try to just play the Fusco scenes in the script and try not to get too much information, because it's easy to go in a direction that you really shouldn't be going, because the audience is not aware that you have that information yet. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's kind of I feel it's kind of a safeguard for me. And then what I'll do is I'll play that, and then when the episode's over, then I'll read the script.
So I was going to say, do you then find yourself going sometimes?
Yeah, I'll go back and read it. You know what I mean? Or I'll you know. And unfortunately, we don't get to see as many episodes as we'd like to, because you're always working. But I'll try to watch the episode. You know?
I have a question about, it's not a spoiler question, but I wanted to know, from your personal perspective, which episode surprised you the most, in terms of when you were reading the script and when you got to the end, you were just like completely, I didn't see that coming in any episode at all.
I'm trying to think of what weird. I mean, we've got some really cool stuff coming up.
Such as? Kidding.
I'm trying to think. I mean, the finale, of course, was great with Fusco and Carter in the bathroom when they, you know, that was a great moment to read that, because I didn't know if they were going to reveal it to each other or exactly what direction they were going to go in. So that was probably, you know, the best moment to date.
And kind of to follow up on that, in terms of your character, is there anything that your character did in the first season that maybe surprised you, that you didn't see coming?
Well, I guess the redemption, the road of redemption that Fusco has taken. You know, I mean, you know, look at episode 3. You know, he tries to kill Reese, so he tries to get him killed with the Colombian drug cartel, and then there was another episode where he tried to get him killed again. And then Fusco ends up saving Reese's life, not once but twice. And I think in the first episode this season, when he referred to him as a friend, I thought was kind of cool. You know, when he says, "I'm looking for my friend," and you know, Fusco's tied up with the ball in his mouth, and he goes, "All right, maybe I have 2 friends." You know, so I thought that was kind of a turning moment in their relationship.
Are we going to see that developing a little more as the season goes along?
I think I don't know if it will develop anymore, but as I say, I feel that it's always been there. It's just kind of that, like, almost like a little brother syndrome, you know. It's like, you know, Fusco is that friend that is a handful that you continuously keep going back to for favors, you know. I think that's where the kind of relationship lies.
Fusco's career, he was kind of the dirty cop, maybe a reluctant one.
Right.
But now that his fate has changed a little bit, do you think he's having fun, or is he kind of chafing under this unexpected burden that he didn't anticipate?
No, what I think what happened to Fusco is that having Reese and Finch come into his life, it returned him to the once heroic image of himself that he once had. I think that anyone that gets in law enforcement at one time went in for the right reason, and then whatever path they took once they were in there is you know, the path in which they have chosen. But I think that is the case with Fusco. I think that, you know, Fusco had this once heroic image of himself and had, you know, wanted to do all the right things, and went through the academy and came through the academy and then kind of, you know, fell in with the wrong crowd, I guess you could say, and then just became you know, somewhat of a conformist, a guy who just is just kind of going with the herd because he doesn't want to be the outspoken one, you know, which has, you know, ultimately brought him down some pretty dark alleys.
It seems like they've given him an opportunity, and he kind of grasped at it like, oh, thank God, something to get me out of this trap I kind of fell into.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, if you remember in the pilot, Reese says to Fusco, you know, I see the good in you, and he says, you know, if I'm going to allow you to live, and if you ever hurt anyone again, I'll be the first one to put a bullet in you. And that's where it kind of, you know, it kind of started there, and that was, it just took off and took flight from that moment.
You mentioned the dual nature of the character.
Right.
Does that make it more challenging to play, more fun, or both?
It makes it definitely more fun. I mean, it's, you know, to play a guy that, you know, is he a bad guy doing good things, or is he a good guy doing bad things? You know, that's up to the viewership. And that's the beauty of it. It's like it's not a defined character where you're like, well, okay, if I make this choice, people are going to like me, or if I do this, it's like you can just play what's on the page and try to stay true to what's on the page, and then leave it to the audience. And for me that's the best type of roles. As I say, I was on this Showtime series Brotherhood, and I very much had that same type of freedom with the character. Whether people like you or dislike you, it's totally up to them. Great.
Thank you.
Great. Nice meeting you all. Thank you.
Likewise.